We're live.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 13th planning board meeting. Why don't we start with a motion to open the meeting? There was attendance. Motion made by Bill, seconded by Marty. With a hand raised. We'll start with Steve.
I'm Steve, Bill, on.
Bill, aye.
This I.
Marty. Marty, aye. Okay, so we are now open, and if we could all stand and join me with the pledge of allegiance. The pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we got continued public hearing for 190, 194, 198 Hartford Avenue, and I think we probably open them up together along with the continued public hearing of 182, 1 to 186 Hartford Avenue. Could I have a motion to open? To continue to open the public meeting? But motion made by Bill, seconded by Steve. Marty, the vote? Marty, aye.
And Liz, but.
Liz, sorry, Liz.
Liz,
Apologize.
aye.
Liz. Bill, aye.
Bill, on. Was I?
One
Bye.
of those
There we go. All right, we're now open. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. So last time we were here, we were looking at traffic and we probably have some other things to vote on as well. What would you like to go about first?
Yeah, I get, just to kind of give an update of what was discussed at the last meeting, we were primarily discussing traffic. There's a lot of discussion related to the Hartford Ave curb cut, how that's going to operate and such. And at that time, we hadn't had the peer review for traffic finalized. So we did receive the traffic peer review letter. It was actually earlier this week. Copy is in your packets and in the Dropbox. And the peer reviewer, Bob Michaud from MDM, is actually online too. And he can give, I guess, a quick overview of those comments. But before we do that, just to kind of give some other updates on what's going on. So we did receive the final stormwater and engineering peer review letter as well, from a separate consultant. They have pretty much given a clean letter. So there's a few conditions that they've recommended, but all in all, it meets the specifications, our bylaws, and the stormwater standards. I know one of the items that I was stressing a bit at the last meeting regarding traffic was the Cedar Hill Road discussion. As we discussed, it seems to make sense to make a portion of Cedar Hill Road a two-way from where the proposed curb cut is for this property going towards the intersection of Hartford Ave. With that, it will require some improvements. I know there were some details that I think the board wanted to kind of finesse, specifically related to the treatment of the Cedar Hill Road obstruction, so vehicles won't continue to go down Cedar Hill Road the wrong way. So there's been more details in that aspect that have been meshed out, which I can go over. Our peer review consultant, Bob Michaud, and then Jason Adams behind John over there, who is the consultant for the applicant, has also worked on this. So I think we're in good shape as far as that goes. There is some additional information or revisions and items that need to be looked at from the traffic perspective now that we got the peer review letter back, specifically at the Hartford Ave curb cut, and how that relates to the DOT improvements, which I guess, Bob can go in more detail, but that's pretty much the update, the high level update of where we stand currently with this project.
Okay, so there's been some changes to the design. And we'd probably like to go over those. Are we better off having Bob go over those or the applicant, probably the applicant, right?
I think it would probably make sense for Bob to go over his letter first, and then there were some items that were incorporated. I have the concepts
Sure.
on here that I can pull up, maybe after Bob goes. I think that's probably the best
All right.
way.
Bob, would you like to present tonight?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair and board members. For the record, Robert Michaud, Managing Principal of MDM Transportation Consultants. Following on what Rob had mentioned, there's been a lot of progress made on plan revisions over the past few weeks. Really, they were born out of ongoing conversations with police, fire, input from us and a working session with the applicant and their engineer. The engineer, traffic engineer submitted a traffic impact study addendum, and there have been subsequent submittals of revised site development plans, at least certain sheets to reflect those conversations. I don't need to review every aspect of our review. There are a few housekeeping items that would need to be addressed by the applicant that they really aren't material to what the analysis is showing. The focus of our comments really had more to do with making sure that the access to Hartford Avenue is appropriately located, sized, and designed, particularly in reference to the Mass DOT planned improvements along Hartford Avenue. And secondly, to have the applicant provide the applicable analysis for two-way operation of Cedar Hill Road. Those combination of improvements interact with one another, right? So right now, the Mass DOT plan sets envision a shared use path and a widening of the road that is essentially going to bring the curb line of Hartford Avenue closer to the property line of this particular site, right? And so you're going to have less frontage and a different curb line that the applicant will need to design to, so that the driveway, once those improvements are built, will function the way that it's intended and will be restricted the way that it's intended. And secondly, that the conversion of Cedar Hill Road to two-way operation, that will in and of itself require that there's some changes to the signal, phasing, timing, and lane arrangements. Rob, does it make sense to bring up the Mass DOT plans? I can do that from my screen, but I don't know if you are able to or have those plans available.
I don't have them readily available, so I will just make you a co-host and.
Okay, great. Yeah, it'll be a bit more clear if we have these plans up on the screen. So, okay, so you should have on your screen the Mass DOT plans as they've currently been submitted, the most recent version. Can you see those okay?
Yep, they're up on the screen now.
And for
Great.
the audience here in the room, they're also behind you. It's easier to see those than the ones this way. Thank you, Bob.
Great. Okay, thank you, Chair. So what's on the screen here is the latest iteration of the Mass DOT plans. This is an outcome, as the board is aware, of the Crossroads Center industrial property development, which served as a genesis for these types of improvements. What you'll see in this diagram is that Cedar Hill Road, which is at the top of the screen here, is shown as a one-way road as it is today, exclusive left turn lane and a through right turn lane. The idea here is that as you travel from the right side of the page to the left side, that's the westbound travel direction, that's away from 495, that there'll be a widening to provide a second left turn lane here. And you'll notice adjacent to the proposed curb line, a new shared use path that's being proposed. So these series of improvements are really going to substantially reduce the amount of frontage, if you will, or depth of the site. It's going to really pull the curb line much closer to where the parking area is to be located on the property. And then on Cedar Hill Road, you'll see the conversion of that to two-way operation would really require that a couple of changes be made to this plan. In particular, if you look at the left side of the page and traveling to the right side, that's the eastbound movement. That is a through lane paired with a through and right turn lane. Because the conversion or proposed conversion of Cedar Hill Road to two-way would generate left turn traffic onto Cedar Hill in that eastbound direction, you'd be now crossing over in some future date, once these improvements are built, you'd be crossing over two left turn lanes. And so there'll be a need for one of a couple of changes to the plan. A phasing change so that the dual left does not compete or conflict with any kind of a left turn movement that happens on a Cedar Hill. And the potential, at least, that there be some modification of the curb line to allow a short exclusive left turn lane that would be aligned opposite one of these two left turn lanes to facilitate that turn. The sheet just up the road to the east, where Crossroads Center is a very similar intersection, and you'll see that the design currently contemplates what I've just mentioned in terms of the left turn lane, right? So at Rawson Road, they've proposed a short left turn lane to allow that movement to happen efficiently and directly opposite one of the two left turn lanes that are coming from the 495 direction. So that's the type of design change that we think would be appropriate to consider, and that we've requested the applicant to do some homework on to ensure that as they're planning the site, that they're designing it in a way that achieves two things. One, a near-term operation prior to when these improvements are in place. We want to make sure that if their project happens first and nothing has been built on Hartford Avenue, that plan can work functionally. So we've requested that analysis. And secondly, in the future year condition, which is when these improvements would be in place, that they also look at the operational requirements under that scenario. And what that really means is that the applicant's just going to go back and do at least some kind of a conceptual plan and the supporting analysis that would show how the site operates relative to both of those conditions, with and without the Mass DOT project. So that's really the primary comment that we've had. We do note that the current design, the most recently submitted design, does include a driveway on Hartford Avenue that has right in, right out operation. So it would be technically restricted to movements right turn in, right turn out. Left turns would be prohibited. Those left turns would use Cedar Hill Road as the most appropriate way to get into or out of the site if they need to make a left turn. That way they can do it through the signal. But the auto turn analysis, and this is in our comment letter, the auto turn analysis suggests that current design would require that service vehicles in particular make fairly wide turns to be able to get into the site. That's trash trucks, for instance, or delivery vehicles that might need to get into the site. We're suggesting that the geometry of that driveway might need to change a little bit to better accommodate those particular vehicles. Or alternatively, that service vehicles be directed to use Cedar Hill Road as an appropriate point of access into the site so that you don't have the potential for vehicle conflicts at Hartford Avenue. So those are the primary comments. Again, I've got a series of other comments in here that relate to requested additional information or clarification, but I think the outcome of that would not be material or necessary as part of this conversation. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any particular questions that the board has, or perhaps have the applicant's engineer present their material and we can have a conversation thereafter.
Does anybody from the board want to ask Bob a question before we turn over to the applicant engineer?
I'm gonna wait to hear from the applicant.
Okay. have you guys incorporated these things into your design at this point, or where do we stand as far as you and Bob getting on the same page?
I thought we were pretty close to on the same page. I think where Bob started, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but a lot of the changes were immaterial. So we went through and kind of met early on to talk about the two-way access on Cedar, which I think, yeah, everyone agrees the two-way access makes sense, Bob included. So I think everyone was good there. We had made modifications based on Bob's comments to the Hartford Ave Drive and comments we heard at the last meeting in order to further restrict the driveway movements while at the same time ensuring that fire and emergency vehicles were comfortable that they could still kind of get in while maneuvering, changing the turns to be harder if anyone was going to try to do a left-hand turn out. We've incorporated those changes. There's talk about adding a lot of signs, no left turn signs, do not enter signs, and advanced warning signs as well, just so if someone's coming down to the Hartford Ave driveway, it directs them to head to the other access point if they were going in the other direction. So we've added all of that information. And we also added further, we have those call those bollards for lack of a better term, those plastic bollards that were discussed within the island to prevent someone from hopping over our island. So on that end, I think we've done all of that. Bob had questions about what would happen in the future should this roadway get widened at some point in date, which we don't know if it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but planning for if that did happen. We came up with an alternate traffic pattern within the site. I think his concern was having a sharp turn when that curb line pushed up. So we have the ability to change the internal circulation just by way of making one section one way and directing traffic around so that the approach to the driveway is in a manner that just makes that turn easy to do rather than a hairpin 180.
You have a set of drawings at this point?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I should
That's
see that.
exactly what we're talking about.
So this is the conceptual plan for the.
Yeah, so I think one of Bob's concerns was if we'll call it the red, and that's the future gets installed. It becomes a tight turn if you were traveling, I'll call it plan left to plan right to then exit the site. That would be kind of a hard hairpin to do. So at that point, without making any really changes to curb lines or anything like that, we could simply direct that section of road to be one-way traffic at that point. You'll see the arrow in the blue, and then direct any cars that needed to exit, around in a clockwise direction, which could be simply done with paint striping and signage. We don't want to do that now as the site exists because it doesn't make sense, and I don't think people would listen to it if it was now, because it's more natural to go straight. But we just wanted to show in the future, if that was widened, we have the ability very easily to add striping and signs just to make that traffic maneuver easier.
I'm sorry, why wouldn't you do that now?
Because I think people wouldn't listen to it, to be completely honest, because it's inviting when you go that way and you have a wide area for a turn. I think it would confuse people. I think you'd have some people frankly going against the one-way traffic. Whereas in the future, when that roadway is widened, it is a difficult maneuver. So it's not inviting at that point.
Yeah, and I'll add that to that as well. Right now, we have the proper queue that's required. I believe Bob would agree with that. The queue. Jason, do you want to touch about the queue aspect on that? Right?
Yeah, so just the shape of the driveway under existing conditions, there's enough room for vehicles to stack and for the turn to be made. So coming from the building side of the site, turning right to exit the site, that it is an easier flow as it's currently designed. So it's all the vehicles that are parked in the building, it's a more direct access to exit the site is if they can just go along that, what I'll call the southern access aisle to then exit the site, and there's plenty of room to receive them, and that turn is an acceptable turn. So the site is better designed as it is now, but if the DOT project comes forward, it does eat up some of that frontage and shortens that queue, which is what the Boulder plan is solving for.
We just want to show, we don't think it makes sense to do that now. I don't think Bob would say it would make sense to do it now. It's just a better traffic circulation now, the way it's currently designed. We just want to show in the future, if that did get widened, we do have the ability to do something quite easily to provide the queue that's needed in the traffic pattern that is.
Right, and just one thing to point out to the board, and that is, assuming the Mass DOT improvements are in place, you'll notice, and it's shown in that darker red color, the radius that you'll be using to turn into the site is substantially tighter, if you will, than what it will be initially under the proposed plan. And so, you know, there's a couple of things. The depth of the driveway, the ability to stack vehicles from the stop line back into the site is substantially shortened. And that's what's really driving the need to convert that aisle to a one-way. And secondly, the Delta Island here essentially goes away. There will be no defining right turn in, right turn out driveway. It'll just be kind of a standard open 26 foot or so wide driveway. So having additional traffic controls and sign and one-way operations is going to facilitate that future condition. So we don't have any particular problem with what's shown here as a future condition. I think it's appropriate to show what could happen within the site to address that longer term issue. You know, and you know, I think, you know, what's shown here is reasonable. Of course, there could always be some adjustment to the curbs within the property. So when that one-way aisle is established at some future date, it's a fairly wide one-way, honestly. We would suggest perhaps that there's a curb line change within the site itself to kind of tighten that up, either with pavement striping or with curbing, just to better define it as a one-way. And by doing so, you'd also increase the storage capacity from where the stop line will be located, you know, once those Mass DOT improvements are built. So there may be some minor alternate version of this thing that might be a little more effective, but the premise here is that the conversion to one way is the appropriate design treatment under that future condition.
Why don't I turn it over to the questions from the board? Anybody want to start up here?
Oh, I'm sorry. You expand on the balance? The balance you want to put in the road?
Oh, yeah, so in the island.
Yes, please.
So that's the right in, right out. There would be those plastic bollards. You'll see them on the side of the road. I think you see them in Hopkinton right now in your heading
Yes.
there. So that would, you know, essentially prevent people from cheating. Say, I'm just gonna hop over this thing because
Yeah.
they're hitting a piece of plastic, and an emergency vehicle, if they needed to get through there, they can get through it. So that's what we would propose to put there, at kind of a belt and suspenders and, you know, another belt.
Okay. Secondly, coming down Cedar Hill Road. It's one way. It's one way right now all the way through.
Yes.
You want to make it two-way for approximately how many feet?
Probably not the exact number, but a ballpark, I'd say it's probably about 150 feet, give or take. Somewhere in there, probably about 150 feet,
Okay,
depending on where you measure from.
so if you're living on Cedar Hill Road, when you're coming down, how will the geography of the road change for your vehicle?
So when you're living on Cedar Hill, coming in the direction that you come in today, heading towards Hartford Ave,
Yes.
the traffic flow won't change at all. If anything, would frankly, so it will get constricted,
Mhm.
but it'd be more to what I'd call normal size for a one-way road. I think Cedar Hill right now is sized as if it was a two-way road, which makes it a little bit confusing. I think it was at one point, then it was changed, but the geometry never changed. So there would be a throat that would throttle down from that two-way width, over a certain tapering distance.
Mhm.
That would allow you to go to a one-way width of 16 feet at that cross point, which really directs traffic in one direction and also adds as really a mitigator from a speed standpoint too. Like people won't be flying down there if you have something to, um, you know, something there to prevent you from doing so.
Okay. That's my only two questions right now.
Just to clarify, going eastbound on Hartford Ave, then you're gonna take a left onto Cedar to get into the property, then that signal obviously is gonna need to change. So the green would be only on one side rather than both to allow for the left-hand turn.
Correct, and that was what the peer review consultant was saying, was just to show, they're looking for both the analysis of that, which we've done, we just hadn't prepared it all and submitted it, also looking to have that submitted in a housekeeping fashion. And then, yes, there'll be a plan in place for if this project moves forward in advance of the Mass DOT project, and then also what would happen when the Mass DOT project came in, because those are two different geometries as we saw in the plan. So, but either way, with this improvement on Cedar Hill, there would be changes to the signal to allow that turn.
And then in theory, when the Mass DOT takes hold, there'd be a dedicated left-hand turn lane.
That's, I think
with a
that
left-hand arrow.
generally accepted, that's the best solution. And when you look at that plan, there's a striped area, just geometrically, it's kind of naturally already there for a left turn lane, just because the double left creates a void on the other side of the intersection.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, that's it for me.
I have an additional question based on what he asked you. Those lights that are currently there, do we have the technology to change them to meet our needs?
There may be some equipment changes that are necessary. Certainly when the Mass DOT project comes in, there'll be a lot of new equipment there.
Mhm.
There is the technology to adjust the signal timings themselves. So if one particular movement needed more time or less time than is there today, that's a pretty easy change
Okay.
within the equipment. But as part of this, we would be looking at the equipment changes necessary for both that, if we want to call it the interim, but the immediate build, and then working with
Long-term?
the longer term, correct?
Okay. Great, thank you.
Do we know how much queuing is going on Cedar Hill at the moment? How long is it taking to get through that intersection?
Yeah, it's pretty similar either way. There's not much queuing there today. I mean, especially with the two-lane approach. We have looked at it with the single lane approach there. And there's not much change really to any of the operations around as a result of that. It's a fairly low volume, especially when you compare it to Hartford Avenue.
That was my only question.
So my concern, Hartford Ave East, prior to getting to Cedar Hill Road. Pre-DOT, there's only two lanes. One is the right-hand lane is straight and right. And now the left lane, you're gonna make that left only or left and straight.
Left and straight.
So my problem with that is the queuing on Hartford Ave East right now sucks. And it goes past Arrowhead in the mornings. It gets down to Hartford Village in the mornings. So now if you have somebody trying to take a left, but somebody wants to go straight, they're gonna stop because they're going straight. So you might get one, maybe two cars, and now everything else is staging and backing up for the next repeated person that wants to take a right into either one of the two properties, because that's the only methodology in there. That does not seem viable until Mass DOT does the widening, and it creates a total bottleneck jam in my regards, from just what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing alleviation from that. So I don't know how we can solve that.
Yeah, I think a big piece of this is that there are very few cars that would be expected to turn left, especially in that weekday morning. Really, the only cars that would turn left are vehicles that would be coming into this site. It generally, I mean, we're planning for a retail site, not typically peaking in the morning. Our projections are there's probably 5 to 10 vehicles over the course of an entire hour that would turn left. So a car maybe every 5 to 10 minutes turns left. Every 3 to 5 cycles of the light, there is a left turning vehicle. In the morning, it's a little bit higher, but still pretty low. It's 15 to 20 in the afternoon peak. There just really isn't that much demand to go into the movement because it's only serving the site, that left turn, right? Like it's not serving anybody that wants to go on Cedar Hill. Both sides, but like we don't know what's going on.
So there's a bank on the one side, which is gonna have an ATM. So you're gonna have that traffic, that's
It's-
morning traffic, I know, I mean. My other concern though is, have you ever started that light at 8:30, 9 o'clock? Cause the retail and the doctor's offices are gonna start opening up at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So your traffic, I think you're way lowballing the amount of traffic coming from the eastbound side, the westbound side, up east on Hartford Ave and taking the left to go into these two properties. I think we're way underestimating that at this point in time. And I think that needs to strong look at. My next concern is, what has police and fire said about both of these, the interim solutions? What were their comments about the traffic flows themselves, just their concern? Because there's a lot of accidents up at that intersection already, and now we're gonna change the traffic pattern. You're only gonna increase the probability of incidences.
And Rob can jump in, but we had multiple meetings with police and fire talking about this, and I think they were all in favor, thinking this is a very good thing to have it two directional. It really doesn't make sense the way it is right now. And by doing that, it alleviates some of the bigger concerns and issues that they have. It's the people coming directly onto Hartford Ave, multiple driveways and cutting across it. This puts everything kind of in one spot where it makes sense to do. And Rob, jump in if I mischaracterized the meetings that we've had.
No, I think you're right on, and, you know, Marty, you bring up an excellent point, and I think just to kind of, before we open this up to the public, to kind of explain how I envision this going with next steps. So the traffic peer review is ongoing. We have the letter, you know, there's some items that need to be addressed, primarily with relation to not Cedar Hill Road with the two-way traffic pattern, but actually the signal serving Cedar Hill Road, which is what I think you're alluding to.
Yes.
And to that point, you know, we don't really have the finite details yet for that, and we're going to need some finite details before this gets closed out. So what I believe, not to speak for the applicant, but I believe what needs to happen is we talked about the two-way Cedar Hill Road. I'm gonna talk about that little treatment for that island in a moment, but essentially, I think to kind of get this to the next step, the applicant's gonna want to talk to the select board because it's really their decision to make this portion a two-way versus one-way. Which I believe that they're probably going to want a recommendation from the planning board if that's the case. Once that happens, there's more steps involved, and that is primarily what's gonna happen with the signal serving Cedar Hill Road and Hartford Ave and 126. Obviously, there's a fair amount of work to pull together the analysis and the conceptual layouts of that, and I'm sure the applicant doesn't want to go through that if the select board feels that changing Cedar Hill Road from a one-way to a two-way is not feasible. So I think that's the first step. Obviously, no decision is being made tonight by the planning board, so, and I don't think it's the applicant's intent to close anything tonight, obviously. So with that, once the Cedar Hill Road discussion occurs, details related to the intersection as well as getting a final plan set related to these revisions that the applicant has made. We're gonna need that as well because you need a final plan set if you are to approve this. So the other item that I just want to mention, and actually, I think it's in Bob, I think that you ended up including a detail at the end of your peer review that had, which I can pull up, which had the recommended treatment for the island. Yes, all right. So, let me go back to. So what we were discussing, which Bill, I think you were alluding to it with your or with your questions, was how Cedar Hill Road will operate. And this is, I think, just more of a review of, because we've discussed this, but essentially, this is the proposed curb cut on Cedar Hill Road for the applicant's project, where my cursor is. And this would be a left turn only out of the site with a full access entrance here. The issue becomes really right where the curb cut ends is where you want the entire rest of Cedar Hill Road to become a one-way or remain a one-way. Now, it's a very wide street as a one-way. So the discussions that took place between myself, DPW and public safety was how can we, number one, deter people from going down the wrong way? Because if you put signage up, signage doesn't necessarily work all the time. But we also wouldn't want to put up bollards or a like a guardrail because public safety was saying if there's an issue down there and right now they could go down the wrong way of Cedar Hill Road if they had to respond to something, they would prefer they could still have that option. So the question becomes, how can we deter people but also allow passage for emergency situations? And what we've discussed was a raised island, not a flush one, which I think was discussed initially with a scored concrete top. It would actually be raised, but it would be a 4-inch tall sloped granite curb with a concrete treatment on it. So then that way, as a passenger vehicle approaches, they're not going to want to mount that, but because it is a sloped granite curb, emergency vehicles such as a fire truck or ambulance can mount that and drive through it, if need be. And then also there's signage and striping as well to go along with this. So based on my conversations with police, fire, DPW, and, my opinion, we're all in agreement that that would be a nice way to make this a one-way and make the remainder of Cedar Hill Road a two-way up to the Hartford Ave intersection. So that's where that stands, and Bob actually had a nice
Yeah.
detail of this on his peer review letter, and I think the applicant's in agreement.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. Something you mentioned, Rob, though, that having to go to the select board and that about doing it. Bob, could you let Bob share, and I'd like him to bring back his with the DOT on it? Because I'm gonna make a recommendation. I know I'm gonna be hated for it, but I don't care.
Okay. Okay, is that clear? Do I need to zoom in at all?
No, the one with the,
Different colors?
yeah,
Oh,
Oh, that's, yeah, Rob, I think,
yeah, that's
oh,
me.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's okay. That one.
Yeah, I was looking for, wasn't there 3 lanes on the eastbound side of Hartford Ave?
It's the one that
The
was.
westernmost
contemplating the
portion?
DOT improvement.
Okay, Bob, you're up again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're referring to where Roston Road, that there's a third lane, which was a dead.
Correct.
Yeah. I think I know where you're going with this,
Okay. We'll
Yeah.
see.
and you're not gonna be hated, because I think everybody's on the same page if.
so this is, what's on the screen right
go.
now is
That's the
just,
one.
yeah, just to the east of, that property is this intersection, the signalized intersection at Crossroads Center at, Rawson Road. And so if you think of this in terms of Rawson Road really being Cedar Hill, right, if you were to design this, you'd want to achieve something similar to this. You want to have a separate left turn lane that aligns directly opposite one of the two
Correct.
opposing. That's, yeah, ideally, that's what you would do.
Yeah, I know, I'm in agreement of that. So my question is, being that this property on the above is the new proposed bank.
Right.
And the curb cuts, why not widen the road on that side of Hartford Ave on
Yeah, so where you're,
west of 126, widen it to get the 3 lanes even in the interim, so you have a left turn only lane, you still continue, and now you're not creating havoc on eastbound traffic. And
Mhm.
you're taking back away from the road that's already gonna be taken away when Mass DOT does it. And yet we're not impacting the townspeople and screwing up when it's gonna get changed anyways, so widen the road at the beginning. Cause I know most of the select board people, they're gonna have very strong opinions on the traffic flow as it is, so be proactive to it, to do that side of it on the front side.
yeah, I don't envision that if, if the Cedar Hill Road vote occurs, I'm sure it would be conditioned on improvements to this intersection regardless. But to your point, I think, if the DOT improvements do occur, a left turn lane obviously has to be looked at because of the two left turn lanes going the opposite way. But talking about in the interim, your points are completely valid, and I think it just requires a little bit more analysis from the applicant, and that needs to occur once it's kind of discussed in
Yeah.
the Cedar Hill Road.
Because the westbound traffic has a left turn. The-
Yeah, I
The
think
east should have the left, and if the property is available to us now, widen it to make that third lane. To mitigate the traffic concerns. That's a terrible intersection already, regardless of whether we have 2 left turn lanes from the westbound side. Or not.
yeah, no, I think that's fair, and I think we're, like I said, I think it just requires a little bit more analysis on their end to figure out what the best solution is for the interim.
Okay. All right, I guess I've got some comments. Can you bring up the colored version, Rob, that you had with
Sure.
that piece of it? So I remain concerned about the transition plan between what we've got now and what would happen with Hartford Avenue. We've all talked about the fact that, there's a lot of hurdles that need to go through. Not necessarily people in this room, but there's a lot of hurdles for that Hartford Avenue piece, and I don't want to speculate on the funding and all this and the timeframes of when that's possible. But I think we need to have a plan that is capable of handling it now and capable of handling it in transition. And I guess what I'm trying to understand here is that you know, the entrance and exit over on the east side of there. You know, if the takings happen with the Hartford Avenue, you lose a lot of that frontage. But you're not proposing to design to the design that you're expecting when, if Hartford Avenue gets improved. At this point, you've got a larger, it's a little different design there. Is that correct with the flow inside? Or is it the same flow inside that'll be either way now and in the future?
I didn't follow the question.
The question is I'm concerned about the now and the future.
Sure.
Okay. This design that we're seeing now with the entrances on the, I guess it's the east side with the entrance and the exit there. Is that the design of the parking lot and everything in there now and in the future?
So the parking lot.
And I'm
in the
concerned
current-
about the queuing coming into, if you're coming at speed, going west on Hartford Avenue, then you take the entrance on the east side of this design. Is, if, you know, what, have we looked at the flow into your facility from outside, you know, looking at the traffic queuing and, because right now, there's a lot of queuing in that area right now. I mean, it backs up all the time, so, you know, is that, Bob, if we looked at that at the current, at the current spot right now, and then in the future,
Yeah, so.
I guess I'd be interested in also in your comments about the two-way coming in and out of there, and I'm questioning whether that should be two-way now as well as the future, because if we train our customers to come in and exit that entrance, if something changes in the future, it's harder to change behavior in the future than it would be.
Yeah, I think what we've requested is that they simply show the striping, the signs, all that would need to be in place in that future built condition, right? So that we're clearly understanding what that all looks like. And there's a possibility that there may need to be some changes within the property itself. So just to illustrate, where they're showing the right turn only arrow on the driveway, and then they show the stop bar. That stop bar is going to have to be pulled all the way back to where you see the dashed line cross the driveway.
Sorry, I
Right.
don't understand.
So yeah, so Rob, yeah, so you see
You have
that
the floor,
dashed line
Bob.
that crosses the driveway. So the stop bar, where it says stop, that's going to have to be pulled back all the way to where that dashed line is once the Mass DOT improvements are in place. And the distance from that stop bar to where folks would be turning into that one way doesn't even really allow for a single vehicle to queue, you know, efficiently, right? There's not a lot of depth to the driveway. So what I'm suggesting is that if the applicant provides a plan showing the future curb line, the future markings that would be necessary on the driveway, and you know, once the DOT improvements are in place, that there may need to be some curb line changes within the property to provide more storage length for anyone that needs to stop before making a right turn on a Hartford Avenue. And we want to make sure that if someone's coming into the driveway, that they can do so safely and be able to efficiently turn it into that one-way segment without unnecessarily conflicting with that stopped vehicle. Right. So I think it's a drawing that we've requested. It may end up showing some modest changes to the curb lines in the aisles that are on the property itself. And once that's produced, we can react to it. But I think it might require that there's some changes to the curb line interior to the project.
Okay, I'm concerned that as you know, if you have to go to that dashed line, that what happens is then you lose your ability to separate the in and the out there.
Right,
And then we're end up in a situation where we've got people cutting across 3 lanes of traffic.
That's where the plastic bollards come in.
Well, yeah, definitely wanna see the design, but I guess we're to the point, I guess I wanna see what it's gonna look like in a better picture that's been requested. Because I am concerned still with that entrance and exit, both now and in the future being being a two-way concern.
Yeah,
Right.
we can provide a different plan. I think, I feel incredibly confident that the changes that we're talking about are pretty inconsequential, whether we move a curb line inside the site or not. I don't think we're gonna need to, but if we do, I think it's easy stuff for us to do. We can show what's happening there. So I don't have an issue putting together, essentially combining 2 plans is really what we're talking about doing here. We can add some more detail to show it to you and your peer reviewer.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to, you know, I guess my other question is that, you know, I know we wanna design for today and the future, but when you're looking at, you know, the takings on the red, if that actually happens, why would we design something for that entrance currently right now that, you know, I definitely want to, I guess I just want to make sure that, you know, it feels to me like there should be, and this is one person, one board member talking, but it feels like there should be a design there that's gonna stay there now and in the future. And if you know, customers remember the way in and out of things, and they'll remember this 20 years from now. You know, if it opens up now, they'll remember, oh, I used to take that turn there. I mean, it's just, people remember the way things used to be on roads, and I'm concerned that if we train them one way, there'll be a future that if it changes too much, we'll end up with problems. And the Cedar Hill, you know, I'm still concerned about all the traffic, and I do remember the fire chief when he was first here on the first meetings, commenting, driving by that with the amount of accidents that are still occurring today. So I look forward to seeing what the improvements are gonna be to control that. The other piece, and I guess it's a question more than anything else, but that Cedar Hill going to 1 lane and the island, I guess you'd call it, it's being talked about as cement. Would it be better off as a curb with, you know, bushes or something like that? So it looks like I mean, what,
You gotta get fire apparatus over it though.
you gotta have that wide enough for the fire apparatus to go up,
I
but
personally love the idea of a landscape island, but from a public safety perspective, they did not like that.
even if you had that wide enough for the fire trucks to go through,
Yeah,
that was
I
not
think-
something that public safety was not. You know.
yeah, they would prefer to see it something that they could mount and drive through if possible. Chief Miller would prefer to see
Mm.
every tree turned into a fire hydrant. Kidding, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you know, signage is one thing, but. You know, nice shrub and a bush does.
He's not behind me, is he?
It's waiting in the parking lot for you.
Yeah.
All right, I guess those are my comments too, because I really do want to see what the new design looks like with all this, so. Having said that, I think probably if there's new questions from the crowd, I know last time we had a lot of concerns and, you know, discussions with the crowd. Be interested in any new ones, but at this point, we're still waiting to see what the design is really gonna come about and be, you know, solidified. Is there any new concerns based upon what the discussion was today? Sir, if you could identify yourself and your address and for the record and.
Fred Milgram, 703 Village Lane. Number one thing is widening that road. You're putting 5 pounds of crap in a 1 pound barrel trying to get down Hartford Ave. It took me 5 minutes to get out of my driveway the other day. And that is not an isolated situation. All my neighbors We have elderly people that are afraid to be a little aggressive getting out of that driveway. We have ambulances coming down that road at least 3 or 4 times from Bellingham and other towns. We have fire trucks coming down through there. You add more traffic and they're gonna have more problems. The other thing is, if a trailer truck goes into that property, where's he turn around to get out? Because there's no place to make a swing big enough for a trailer truck to get through there. That's basically my main concerns.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything new? Sir?
Brian Sutherland, 57 New Pond Road, Bellingham. I applaud the members for being concerned about this plan versus the future plan and the incorporation. I'm confused. I thought that it said, at some point, someone said that with the future plan, the two-way, the in and out onto Hartford Ave was going to go away, that it would be an in only? Or did I mishear that?
Yeah, I think you may have misheard that that's not the intent.
It was mentioned at the last meeting.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't discussed in this meeting.
So it is gonna remain in and out. Regardless of the DOT future plans.
Yes, the plan is to have it remain in and out, and one of the drivers is we need the driveway to remain wide enough where we can get emergency vehicles in and out.
So, I guess again, without knowing the DOT's plan, I can see the curb cuts and I applaud the idea of making the site comply with the future plans, because we all know that, because Bellingham had plans for the intersection here, once funds were available, they could immediately start to make changes that instead of making on-site changes where you're gonna have to retrain people, as you had said, to have a different traffic flow, plan for it today, make the appropriate changes for today, for the future, and everybody will be used to that. My question is, was there planned snow storage on this site? And if there was, do the future DOT plans account for the removal of snow storage or possibly in the front there? How does that change the plans for the future?
That was mentioned actually in the civil peer review, and that was actually revised to show the snow storage on the plans. So, which there's adequate.
So there will be adequate for the future?
Correct.
Good.
Yep.
The comment about the left turn from Hartford Ave going east, clearly, as most applicants do, you minimize the impacts until they're actually seen, and to turn left, as you had said, sir, was absolutely correct. It'd be a nightmare without having a dedicated left turn lane, because it goes back past Hartford Village, it goes past Hickson, it comes all the way up to and beyond Monique to get out of my neighborhood, all right? And so traffic in the morning is horrendous. And it'll be the only bank in the area, so yes, I think you're gonna see more than one stop there, or 5 possibly. I think it's an underestimation, and that without an actual turn, you're gonna have a problem. Overall, my general concern with this is that the intent of the initial overlay, and I believe the intent of the changes that have been made so that projects like this would be able to move forward, is that you're in essence taking a residential zone and turning it into commercial, okay? And it's no longer going to be residential with a semi-commercial buffer for all of the residents who live all along Hartford Ave, because once any one of these proposals go through, every residential piece of property along Hartford Ave, it has the potential to be turned into this, which means that every other resident who lives beyond that, that has had a significant buffer, okay, that purchased their homes with a buffer of residential protection, is no longer gonna have that. And so that's my general concern. The entire you're making the north side of Hartford Ave a destination where it has never been a destination before. You're making destination traffic on a highly impacted road that has, through traffic is only getting worse. I mean, we have our own traffic that we deal with in town, but we're a crossroads for everybody to get to 495 between Hartford Ave, 126, 140. Everybody goes through town, and every other development, which is now moving west of us, is going to be coming right up Hartford Ave. So additional impacts here can't be minimized, okay? I think we have to plan for the future, and if we don't accommodate traffic flow now, immediately, then a project like this, well-intended though it may be, shouldn't be built. Because if we can't support it now, it's only going to get worse. Because the traffic has gotten worse over the last year and a half. I mean, in the last year and a half, since COVID got over, I mean, COVID was like a grace period. You know, I mean, people could go and do whatever they wanted. You really didn't have to worry too much about traffic. Now we do, and it is only getting worse. So if we don't plan for mitigation now and take corrective actions now, then we're the ones that are all gonna have to live with the impacts of it, not our developer, okay? And we've already seen, I hate to say it, but we've already seen a lack of concern for the community because it's taken a lot to get simple improvements made with the current property as it is. The houses were derelict, the properties were left in disrepair, the lawn never got mowed unless there was something else happening in town. So I'm a little skeptical of comments that they, oh, it can be taken care of without seeing something in writing, holding the applicant or any applicant to a standard that ensures that we're all being protected.
Thank you for your comments. All right, so. Rob?
Yeah, if I could just respond to the overlay comment. Mr. Sutherland, you bring up an excellent point. I know the previous overlay was essentially in place to try and utilize existing residential structures, but to allow, I don't want to call it commercial uses. It was more of a redacted commercial use. It was, you know, home businesses
Yeah.
like law offices or medical type
Yeah.
structures. There was like novelty stores that you could have, but it was to utilize the existing structures like a home business.
Minimal impact.
Minimal impact, correct. And you are correct regarding I know there was a proposed zone change to change the zoning for this swath to commercial. And that was voted down at town meeting. So the issue was you look at the existing structures, which according to the previous overlay had to be utilized to put some type of business use in. And with the current status of that area, it made it very difficult to utilize the existing structures for something like some type of redacted commercial use. On top of that, this whole Hartford Ave discussion, because Hartford Ave is definitely plagued with issues, we can all agree with that. There should be something done to improve it. That requires takings. Now those structures, one of them is actually going to have to be demolished because it's partly in the taking. And the other structures are now going to be right on top of Hartford Ave. So just so everybody's aware of kind of how this new overlay was designed, we kept pretty much the same uses as what was in the initial overlay. So professional offices, medical facilities. We did expand upon a few items. Instead of making it like a novelty retail, we did allow retail, but not convenience stores. Discussions regarding food establishments, drive-through facilities, gas stations, since that was discussed previously, all of those were just said were an absolute no. And the intent of that was because, like you mentioned about the destination places, we wanted anything to be developed in that overlay to be a destination. Meaning that you're not going to see transient traffic coming in and out of the site because we know how Hartford Avenue is during busy times. You don't want traffic coming off the Hartford Avenue, but mostly coming back into Hartford Avenue. You want traffic to keep moving. So that's why a lot of the uses were contemplated to specifically allow less impacts to Hartford Ave, but allow a developer the opportunity to develop the site where the current assets just couldn't really be utilized. So, and a lot of that drive came from the working group with the neighbors that directly abutted these sites, because to be honest, there's really no way you can create any type of mitigation to the residential properties. You're right on top of them that are so the hope was to try and provide some type of commercial base that would work with the existing residential houses and not cause a significant impact to them. So I think everything you mentioned is correct. It's just, it's not a commercial zone. We tried to not allow a commercial zone. I know myself, Liz, you were on that group, Bill as well. That was what, 2023, 2022-ish? A while ago. I had more hair.
Years ago.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the comment and I appreciate the explanation. It's just that at the moment, from looking at these plans, looking at the proposed modifications, listening to virtually the same thing over and over again about the ease of, or how minimizing the impact of a potential left turn through the Hartford Ave entrance. Okay, although it may be westbound, having an eastbound person doing it still doesn't satisfy unless, I mean, the DOT supposedly, are they gonna put in bollards? I mean, those plastic bollards or not? I don't know. And with the current proposed one, I see that as just another opportunity for the nightmare I described the last time. So that was my main concern. It remains my concern, and I know that it remains the concern of many other people who were here and aren't here tonight. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so at this point, it sounds like we've got some homework to do to come back and give us some more details on these entrances and the design, and come back with a piece that this board can actually get behind. I am very, this one member is still very concerned about that entrance to the east and the entrance, so I'm looking forward. No public safety's first, you gotta get a fire truck in there, but whether that remains two-way or one-way, fire truck needs to get in and out of there. But I'm concerned that in the interim, you're gonna have traffic cutting across the lanes, and that's a big concern of mine, so. When would we, feel like we'd be ready to come back?
Soon, but can I clarify so I just want to make sure I fully understand, because we've gone a couple of different directions.
Please do.
Cedar Hill Road being two-way, everyone's generally in favor that makes sense. It's just you
I
want to
think
see
we
some
need,
additional and now.
we need to see some more details, because there's been a lot of, this one member will say it. We need to see a lot more details, because, I want to see the design of that curve. I want to see the whole piece before there's a recommendation to the select board from this one member.
I'm not arguing, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
no, I
understand,
hear
if I
you.
can come back, not 5 times, just one time. That's what
I prefer it, but I think I thought we were gonna, I know there's been a lot of discussion with you and peer review, and I think you guys are working in that direction. There's still some more concerns on both sides from what I think I've heard. But I think we need to see the next iteration of this.
Understood. I just want to repeat back so I understand what I'm coming back with. So on Cedar Hill, people generally understand two-way makes some sense. There's a little bit more analysis that the peer review asked for. You wanted to see something
Yeah,
that we
that'll work.
provide, which is.
That'll work now and in the future.
Yep. I want to see that on the Hartford Ave Drive under I'll call it the existing conditions without the widening, the changes that we made there without the widening. Whether people are comfortable with that. 'Cause I'm hearing you more concerned
I'm
about.
concerned. I am concerned, so I'm looking to see the design, a full design there. If you're putting ball, where the bollards are, what you're doing,
So-
what the
so we-
signage is. I wanna see it, because right now, if I saw this design, I would say that people would be trying to go the other way. And it's just, I think I told you the last time, the other side of the road, I've had cars cut in front of me to do that twice in the month before our last meeting. And I can see that the design is angled out, but I am still concerned, so I'd like to see that developed. If that's where you wanna go.
Can I just ask, Mr. Fair, because, I mean, the plan.
1 second, no.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Rob, do you have the plan that actually shows in the existing condition? What we're proposing that shows the stop sign, the signs, the bollards? And if we could zoom into that
C301.
corner, what is it?
C301.
C301.
Isn't that? Yeah, this is the one that was just sent.
That's why I want to make sure we did make those changes. I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with those. I understand you want more detail when things are widened. Like that, I understand. That's why I was just trying to clarify if there's something different you wanted to see on.
Well, I guess I'm not sure why there would be two.
This is the
designs,
one, right?
Because the road's completely different. You're tying into. a
I know,
different
but
spot.
To this.
but you're in your facility though. I guess my concern, this one member's concern is that you wouldn't want to have to redesign your entire location if this comes up 2 years from now, if it comes up 10 years from now, or you want to be able to be flexible there, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm concerned about, is that the concern that I heard from Bob, that he spoke, are incorporated into this.
Yeah, I can show the more detail in the future. Without a doubt, I understand your concern. I can absolutely do that. They're not going to be the same because you're adding a new lane of highway. It changes, so stuff is going to change. We try to keep it as similar as possible, but there has to be change. It can't be the same thing for both because it's a completely different scenario. Which I understand what you're kind of hoping to. It just doesn't unfortunately work that way. So that's why I'll show you both so you can see them side by side, but it won't be the same.
Okay,
I just want to make sure with what we're showing here that, we thought we worked with peer review and incorporated their comments. We think these addressed what we heard pre-widening. I just want to make sure I'm correct. If I'm not correct, I need to make some changes.
And it does show the location of the bollards.
So as you look, there's bollards that are in that striped island, just to prevent anybody from turning further in there, but allows room for fire access. You asked us to add no left-hand turn signs. So there's a couple of no left-hand turn signs. So folks driving on 126, entering the site, they're not going to take a left-hand turn. We have do not enter signs. We've added signs within the site as well to direct people to use the Cedar Hill exit. In this geometry work, we worked very closely with peer review and fire to essentially allow a fire apparatus to come into the site, because that was non-negotiable. We needed to allow that while changing the geometry enough and putting advanced signage and other manners to make any kind of a left-hand turn as hard as it could be. People can always jump curves and always do things. Like, I'm not gonna look you in the eye and say, can someone not do it? Someone can always do something we don't want them to do, but we're making it as difficult and unwelcoming as possible. Specifically in this case, where different than the people you're talking about across the road, we've got an option. We can get to that side road. When you're mid-block, you can't, so you have no other option but to cut over that. Here, it's easier to go to Cedar Hill to do that. So we think that these changes address the comments that we heard from this board and peer review and others. And I just want to make sure to see if there's anything.
let me ask the question then. Bob, what are your thoughts on this entrance here being 2 ways in and out of here? Could you go over this a little bit more in detail? Because, I think we've heard members talk about people in the current condition going over, changing directions the wrong way. the audience has commented on it as well. I guess I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on this and the current design.
Sure. Under this design that's on the screen right now, it does allow for the right in, right out movement. As John had just mentioned, there are design features that um, very clearly indicate that the driveway is to be used as a right in, right out. Is it physically possible to make a left turn into or out of the driveway? Yes. It would be abundantly clear to anyone that they shouldn't be doing that, but it's not physically impossible to do it, right? So, and John mentioned that as well. There, to be able to physically restrict left turns here, either coming in or leaving, would require, a pretty significant raised island feature, which, I don't believe would be entirely feasible given, where the parking is located, where the aisles are located, et cetera. So I think this design as currently proposed is reasonable, but it certainly doesn't guarantee that, folks might not, do those types of maneuvers, right? I think it's a reasonable design. Now, the one point I made earlier is when you look at the swept path analysis, right? Those are the auto turn models that were shown on a separate sheet that was submitted. This design does allow for fire apparatus to come in, and that's one of the reasons that the scored concrete island is flush, right? Is you want to have the ability to have a fire truck come in here and be able to do what they need to do. When you look at service vehicles, and this is something that we've requested a little bit of clarification from the proponent on a trash truck or a box truck that might be delivering goods to the store. There's a possibility that the sweeps are a bit wider there. So if someone's at the stop bar waiting to leave and a trash truck comes in, that wider swing of the trash truck may be in conflict with somebody who's waiting to leave, right? So we just want to take another closer look at that. But the general layout of the driveway we think is reasonable. There may need to be some slight adjustments to it, but it's not an unreasonable design. The question that you're asking, Chair, is wouldn't it make sense to design this once, build it once, understanding that at some future date, DOT's improvements are in place and you don't need to do anything to the driveway other than perhaps just restripe where the stop line is. So the design ideally should be done with that future condition in mind, and we want to see a plan. And we've requested this plan that shows what that looks like in the future so that any adjustments that would be necessary to make, whether it's internal curb lines where the one-way section is being proposed or otherwise, that we can flag those now, have them incorporated into the design and not be in a situation where you have to redesign the intersection, 2 years from now or 4 years from now or 5 years from now. So I agree with what you're trying to get to, Chair, in terms of making sure that the design can operate under today's condition efficiently and that it doesn't need to be modified substantially once the DOT improvements are in place. And I think, that's the homework that John and his group, working with the traffic engineer, will be producing over the coming days. And we'll take a look at that to make sure that we're comfortable with it and that it achieves those objectives.
Bill, you had a question?
Yeah, I think we've come a long way so far. I agree, we have to think short term, long term, and I've been talking about that for a while. I think no matter what we do, human nature, someone is going to try to take a left coming up. It's virtually impossible to prevent that. I think we should put as much mitigation is the right word, but difficulty to do that. But I'm also hearing from Bob and from you that we're sort of working on the same page now. I think we have that, to look at the long-term and the short-term solution with making some changes. And or down the road, anticipating potentially keeping any changes minimal. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's one of them.
From a safety standpoint,
From, from
Go
a
ahead.
functional, go ahead.
no, I'm all set.
So Bob, from a functionality point of view. If that east side, I mean, I know we gotta get fire trucks in and out of there. If that was strictly, is that easy, is that an easy design to have fire trucks come in and out of that entrance with only a turn in going eastbound and not allowing a westbound exit from that east entrance? Is that a quick doable thing, or is that you need the 2 lanes more or less?
Well, the vehicle sweep for a fire truck is pretty wide. So, what we did request in our review is a scenario where a fire truck, rather than using this driveway, would actually just go up Cedar Hill Road and turn in that driveway. I think that would probably be a more direct way of getting the fire apparatus into the site. Once they're through the signal, they wouldn't have to fight against opposing westbound traffic, et cetera. So we've requested that that be modeled. But your question, I think, relates to, how wide does this driveway need to be able to properly accommodate a fire truck? And the short answer is it's got to be all of 24 feet, right? It's got to be fairly wide to accommodate those sweeps. So if it's going to be 24 feet wide, the question is, should it function as a two-way driveway and enter in and exit as a practical matter? It's going to be that wide anyway. I think the answer is yes. And honestly, I think the conversion of Cedar Hill Road to two-way operation is going to solve a lot of this. Practically speaking, if someone's on the site and they really do want to make a left turn to get out of this place, they're going to have a really difficult time doing that at this unsignalized driveway. They're going to find it much more convenient and direct to just simply go to Cedar Hill Road and let the light turn green, be able to make a much easier left turn. So I think there's no perfect solution here, but the fact that they're looking to convert Cedar Hill Road to two-way is going to go a long way to making this an efficient site and one that affords folks that use it on a regular basis a much easier route to get it back out of the site. So I think once the applicant submits this revised drawing that shows the future condition, we'll take another crack at maybe tweaking a couple of things on it. I think we all have the same objective. I don't think the developer wants to have to rebuild anything after DOT improvements are in place. So I think everyone has the right mindset in terms of let's design this once so that it accommodates both scenarios, and presumably get the approval to have Cedar Hill Road as a two-way. I think we'll land in a pretty good spot.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you had one last?
Yeah, one last question. Bob, you mentioned emergency vehicles going down Cedar Hill Road.
Yeah.
I assume the technology will still be there. So those vehicles, as they drive up, in essence, can change the lights based on.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's called Opticom. So
Okay.
yeah, so the equipment, and I believe that the existing equipment there does have that Opticom capability on it. So whether it's today or the future improved condition, that capability will exist. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that may make it easier to some degree. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think so too.
All right, thank you. Thank
I got
you.
one other comment. Bob, your concrete island detail on the last page of your report, that is the same concrete island as you're talking about that Rob's sharing right now in that in and out, correct?
Actually, what's shown on the driveway is a flush scored concrete island, so it's not quite the same design as the Cedar Hill Road island.
Why not
And
make it more like Cedar Hill so that the emergency vehicles, if they do need to go in, they can still go in and a car would not want to be going over it.
sure, you could do that.
That
So
would solve that
the
problem.
y- yeah, the outline of the island would look essentially the same. You just show a different design treatment for the curbing. So that's certainly something that um, could be done and would provide more of a physical barrier, if you say, as you mentioned, to anyone who's thinking about trying to make an illegal turn.
And
I know we focused on the east building and the east site. I'm more or less thinking, this one member's thinking, the same discussion goes on the other entrances as well. I think that's probably the.
Yeah, we haven't want to talk that till there's too many things going on all over the place.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the two-way before we further.
Same discussion. Yeah.
So we focused on one.
Thumbs were on the same page. So we've got some more work to do. So I'll ask the question again, what type of time frame would you be looking to come back?
When would your next hearing be? I mean, just, what I'd like to do, Rob, if it's okay, I'd like to just make sure we have a working session with Bob so we can all come in and.
Yep. Yeah,
Gauge.
December 11th is the next meeting. So. And the decision deadline's the end of December, so we have time.
Is it appropriate to move that out? Yeah.
You can, if you want, it's up to the, yeah.
Could we actually request a further date? Just, I think we may need more time on the traffic. And
Well, you can always request a further date. More realistic date is the way I phrase it. But that's why I asked the question, so I appreciate your candor.
Could we request the first meeting in January, possibly?
Yeah, so that would be. I think that's January 15th is the meeting, because. We're not meeting on New Year's for ZBA, so January 8th is ZBA, January 15th would be planning.
Okay.
So if we do that. We'll just have to move out the decision deadline. 'Cause I think right now it's end of December.
Yeah.
But here,
At least March. It's-
February, March.
Yeah, and keep this thing moving.
so January 15th.
And then making decision deadline to do the end of March. It sounds like we're moving.
Is that all right?
Yeah, March 31st.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to, or do you want to continue?
Well, no, just before you do that, is it okay? I know we're discussing a couple things related to the site and we're discussing a couple things related to what will potentially become an item in front of the select board. Is it okay if I begin the process of putting together something related to recommendation to the select board? Obviously, I won't send it or anything, but until we get whatever you want finessed. But at least I can get something in your hands to review that we can kind of start working on this.
And I think that's reasonable based on the January date.
Okay. That works with everybody?
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That works. One other thing before there was some talk about some conditions that would need to go in for stormwater and things like that. Is it worth going over those tonight? No, okay. All right, it sounded like that was a pretty clean bill, other than a couple of things that would be conditioned.
Now, being that we.
We'll hold that for another discussion night. All
I
right,
greatly appreciate that.
Yes, and being
okay.
that we open these both together, do we have to, should we continue 182 and 186 with the extension into the February, March timeframe? At the same time, we open them up together to continue their deadlines, just at least keep them consistent, being that we seem to be opening and closing everything
You can make,
consecutively.
since they're both open, you can just make a motion to continue 190, 194, 198 special permanent development plan and the 182 and 186 special permanent development plan to January 15, 2026, with an extension deadline or a deadline decision extension to March 31st, 2026 for both.
You got that, Marty?
Motion
So
as
moved.
noted.
Just say
So
so
moved.
moved.
So moved by Marty. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by
Thanks, Rob.
Bob. All right.
That's what I'm here
I knew that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Good night,
Oh,
board.
you have to vote. And we'll take it. Marty,
Marty, aye.
Liz, I.
Bill,
Bill, I.
and we'll pass it by.
You're excused.
Thank you. All right, next order of business is Blackstone Street. Do we have an applicant here?
I don't see him and he didn't request a continuance.
You have a bunch of residents waiting.
No.
We'll see.
Okay.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
There's no footballs, not gonna help you out any either.
Mr. Chair, may I ask what the protocol is if no continuance is requested that the applicant is no. We'll address that once we have him come in, if he comes in. Thank you.
He's trying to wear us down, that's all. He has no respect for anybody.
All right, well, we have a public hearing, don't we?
We have a public hearing, but can't really discuss it without the applicant here.
Yeah.
Open the public hearing?
I would not. We have the peer reviewer here too,
We have a decision deadline of December
31st, so you can continue to December 12th. 11th. If you want, I can try giving a call.
Give him a call in an open meeting.
I don't think he deserves that. No.
I.
I already on the public hearing.
We're in a public
Not
hearing.
open.
Why don't we take a 5-minute recess while maybe you do that?
Okay.
Thank you. We're in a 5-minute recess.
Oh, do we need to recess?
No, chair can call for a recess. For a 5-minute recess. I think you have.
I still think about it. Was around, watched the NFL draft. So yeah, 36.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Oh.
Now you got so many photos laid in. So many places.
From the debts. I'm supposed to be there.
You're not.
Where, what, or?
Yes.
Oh.
New uniforms tonight too.
I'm being a good boy and being here. It killed me.
I dumped traffic around 3 o'clock.
Are they the?
Well, I come down Route 1 this way.
I was trying to figure out. I'm like,
Appreciate
nah,
it.
I can't zoom
Little
it.
more way.
I was gonna zoom it. No, from the bus. We have a bus and I have a big TV, so I could have zoomed it on it. And I'm like, I can't do that.
You'd be in the middle of the problem now. No, you're nice. Should be a recommendation here.
Watch the film that he wanted to watch. He liked the Yellowstone and I went to Ethan and so. I was with the same people. I couldn't watch it. If I waited a few. Oh, I don't know.
I know, I just,
It's too early, isn't it?
What time is it?
And then we've done it. So we're all, steering stuff.
Maybe not, I've tried it like this.
That was on the things.
Yeah, that's what we do. We just did that, you know.
You still have it?
Yeah.
All right, why don't we call the meeting back to order? And Rob, I know we made an attempt to give him a call.
I did, and yeah, the applicant isn't coming. It was his
Okay.
understanding that it wasn't tonight, but we did not receive a continuance request. But with that being said, without the applicant here, I recommend continuing to
Okay.
December 11th.
We haven't opened it up technically yet, right?
No,
Would it, we shouldn't, correct?
no, I would not recommend that.
Okay.
but would it be advisable to go over the peer review? Just with her comments to the board?
No,
No, not without the other
No.
side.
you really can't discuss the application without the applicant here.
Okay, so these are all procedural conversations.
This is a
We're
procedural.
talking procedural, so.
I feel bad for the resident,
Well, yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible for the residents.
but no, in all fairness, he's not here. We
So-
shouldn't discuss.
So,
I agree.
yeah, I agree with
I'm
that.
sorry.
Procedurally, we do have a decision deadline of December 31st still.
We
without-
do,
And that's a barrier we can't cross.
correct.
Procedurally, if we need to make a decision between now and December 31st, there's the opportunity to have a meeting on the 11th or there's another meeting in December. No, there's only one December meeting.
Currently, yes.
So currently, there's only one meeting in December, and again, we're talking procedure. We've got one meeting in December.
Yep.
And we have a decision deadline that is in December,
End of December,
end of
correct.
December. So if we were to do procedurally, if we were to take an action on this one way or another, we would have to have something in front of us to do that.
Correct.
All right, so I think we've got some with the applicant not here, going into peer review right now is probably not a good thing. I apologize to our peer review who's here.
Yeah, we got Stacy and Tom from Deals and Thomas, which.
Yeah, we apologize to both of you.
Oh, Stacy's
No
got her
need to
hand raised.
apologize. We understand it happens.
So,
I did just want
thank
to
you.
confirm that we should, so we did just get supplemental materials or responses to our initial comments yesterday. So I assume we should proceed with reviewing those materials before the next time the board meets.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I can touch base with you, Stacy, or Tom tomorrow.
So Rob, I guess I'm looking for a recommendation here. If we're in a position where we've got December 31st deadline, we've got the opportunity, the 20th is a one meeting already. So we can't jam something in there. So if we were to I need your advice.
As a safety factor, get something drafted, decisions, which I can
Yeah, so,
get, yeah, we can go down the same.
so I guess what I'd like to do is see if we can, I guess. I'd like to hear from the rest of the board, but Rob, I'd like to hear from you first. At this point, we probably should not have a discussion with peer review or any other topic.
No, you
But we would need to open the meeting up to do the continuance. To do a continuance to the 11th of December.
yeah,
We don't need approval from the applicant to continue it to December 11th because the deadline's there.
Mhm.
And then procedurally, we could also ask the peer reviews to be there be ready for the 11th, and also have you be ready to give us a positive and negative determination on that from a procedural point. Okay.
yeah, so
So procedurally, we should open this up. If one scenario, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the board first before we do it, but what I guess I'd like to. If we open up the public hearing with the idea of continuing it immediately to the 11th, with the idea that you give us a positive and a negative determination on that, based upon the information we're gonna get from peer review between now and then also be prepared with peer review to discuss that on the 11th if we need to, if they're available.
yeah, you don't need to make any motion or vote on me drafting anything. I would just recommend, vote to open the continued public hearing and then vote to continue that public hearing to December 11th. And yeah, just as a safety factor to make sure that, the board isn't painted into any corners, I can draft something, with the information we have. It's going to be a little bit of a time suck, but that's okay. It's just me.
Okay, so I guess I'd like to hear from the rest of the board if that's what I think that we ought to do.
Procedurally, yeah, my question is to Rob, you, in terms of doing this, drafting some decisions, yay or nay, based upon the information we have. There's a lot that still has to go in from peer review, just there's now, he's still in process of the applicant is in process of replying to that, which then causes more rebuttal almost back at that point. And have this all done by the 11th, and then we have time to sit, read it, review it, and vote. I don't think, I don't know.
You don't have to vote on it for December 11th. You get till the 31st. So I think what the chair is saying is in case that this happens again, for some reason, the board, because now we're continuing the meeting that's getting close to the deadline for the decision, just to make sure that we have some type of safety factor in case we do need to, you need to act on something. I can have something drafted and ready to go, but
I'm just looking at the calendar, and based on the 11th is our only meeting.
We're being forced into this based upon what's happening
Understood.
tonight. Okay.
Potentially, I mean,
Potentially.
December
Well,
11th,
there could be, he could ask for the decision deadline to be pushed out to next June,
Certainly could.
which may happen.
yeah.
I suspect it will.
Anyway, is there any other board discussion on this?
I think it's appropriate.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, I
procedural.
just can't add another meeting in December.
That's fine.
Okay.
I cannot.
Why? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. So that's our procedural conversation. So my intention now is to open up the public meeting. So I'll ask for a motion to continue the public hearing on Blackstone.
I think we need to open the public meeting first.
That's what he's saying.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Motion to open the continued public hearing for Blackstone Streets.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, so it's been,
I
Well,
apologize.
that's all right. And now we'll take a vote. Steve,
Levi.
No, I,
Bill, I.
Was I?
Marty, I.
Okay, so now we are open.
So now a motion
So
to
now-
continue the public hearing to December 11th.
so moved.
Second.
All right, so it's made by Bill, seconded by Steve. Steve,
Levi.
No, I,
Bill, I.
Was I?
Marty, I.
Okay, so, and, the only comment I'll make is I'll apologize to the audience tonight. So, and I will, so we've continued it, and I think that's where we're gonna be, but I do apologize for, not being able to discuss the matters that we were supposed to discuss tonight.
Not regarding,
If it's a procedural question,
it's procedural, yes. In open, Barbara DeVoe, 7 Lynn Court, in open meeting law, there is a, where cases are heard, there is one case in which, in North Attleboro from 2017, where the applicant didn't show and the board continued to discuss and filed for open meeting law complaint. The whomever oversees open meeting law actually ruled in favor of the town and said that they were safe discussing it because there was no change noted within 48 hours.
okay, we appreciate your point. I think what we've done is we're continued the meeting at this point, so. Again, apologize to the audience and the residents that have come out tonight.
And
We've decided to go with the route we've gone, even with your search that you just did.
we appreciate that. Would we be able to voice any of our concerns to the board without you discussing?
Anybody can send a letter at any time. Tonight, no. Only because we've continued it to the next time. So I apologize. We'd like to, have those robust conversations on the 11th if possible. But we will accept a letter anytime you'd like to send it.
Or a phone call.
Or an email.
Or an email. I think a lot of residents may have already reached out.
I do think that this is the largest outcoming, and we'll see, and I do think that many residents are not gonna be coming anymore because of that. It's,
I would recommend. We always would love resident input, so I would say the more resident input, the better. And I'll say it that way. So thank you for coming in. I apologize for this late notice.
Thank you.
The open meeting that you referenced, was that a planning? Why can't I?
it's procedure.
It's a procedural. I wanna know, I wanna look it up.
I'll send it to Rob.
Send it, yeah, I just going down too many rabbit holes. I apologize. Anyway, let's continue the meeting. So I think the next major thing on this is the 2025 open space and recreational information. Rob,
Yeah.
It was I know that we all had a packet, and it was a thick packet that we had and read. Thank you, peer review.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, and Stacy just got off.
Thank you.
Yeah, reach out to you tomorrow. Appreciate it again.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I'll go over the open space plan just very high level. If people, I don't know if if you read all, I think it's like 150 pages.
It was a thick read.
Yes, it is. It's very interesting. you know, the open space and recreation plan, it's been definitely a hefty document to draft. You know, I give Hannah Chase and Hannah Crawford, the previous conservation agent, a lot of credit to try and get this to work. And there's actually a open space committee that also helped with this. But just to quickly go over the stuff that's kind of relevant to the planning board, because essentially the open space committee, this goes to the select board for approval, but typically the planning board, conservation commission, and maybe the parks committee, they'll actually give a recommendation on this. That's what's been done in the past. So that's why it's in front of you tonight. So essentially, the big things with this is, I'm sorry, I can't get to. Sorry, page 47. I'm going the wrong. I apologize.
You can just type
No
the
need.
number into that box on the right with the page number.
Yeah, that's okay. I got it. We're here. Anyway, I'll be very, very quick. Basically, open space goal and recreation goals, the critical items in there was just trying to make the open space areas more accessible and inclusive. That way there'd be more community involvement in these areas. For the analysis of needs, this plan noted that there's been substantial growth in Bellingham, as we all know. So essentially trying to acquire more open space and also being able to analyze and maintain current assets are really the critical needs for this assessment. And with that, for the community needs as well, there's a lot of discussion in here about accessibility for the open space and recreation areas that we have. Later on in the document, there's an appendix or an appendix, I should say, that goes over really all of the highlights or the ADA compliance with every single town-owned recreation facility in this, and it just goes over what's there, how it can be improved on, it was a pretty heavy lift, if you look, that's at the end of the document. But where that comes into play, oh, and the other thing too is making sure that more information gets out to the public regarding what we have for open space and recreation areas, because there was a pretty substantial survey that went out, and one of the big concerns that residents had was, well, I don't even really know, I didn't know half of these things existed, and if I did, it'd be nice if I was able to use them. Well, I would use them if I knew they existed. And then, of course, making sure that those areas are maintained is the other part of this. So, so with that, there was a pretty substantial amount of goals that were established. So protecting existing open space, repairing existing rec spaces, maintaining open space and recreation sites, enhance them, improve access and communicate about the open spaces, create new partnerships to further develop existing partnerships dedicated towards protection of open space, create parks and recreation department. That was actually a new one, which I think they actually just created the parks committee. So we're moving forward. And then increase pathways and connectivity in Bellingham. And there was a 7-year action plan that was included, and the planning board is listed in here, which I will tell you, the good thing is that the two objectives that are listed in here, that the planning board really has already done and continues to do, and that's requiring additional open space, and kind of looking at areas that may be good candidates to acquire, which we've done through multiple applications that have been in front of the board. So that's one of the objectives. The other objective, which is towards the end, that is related to the planning board, has to do with connectivity and creation of sidewalks, which we've also done and will continue to do. Right here. So increase sidewalk accessibility and prioritize areas. So there's been a few projects where we've required mitigation funds for specifically for sidewalk improvements. There's been projects where we've required complete renovation of sidewalks as mitigation, either along site frontage or in some cases adjoining neighborhoods that connect to open spaces. So it's nice to see that you're listed it on here as these objectives that you're already doing, so 2 thumbs up for the planning board. That's pretty much the overview of what's related to the planning board in this, so I can go into more detail if you want. I think there was one question, I forget who asked it, it was related to the CPA, which the previous rendition of this had a lot of narrative on the CPA, but because it's a select board initiative, like that's would have to go through the select board. It's listed in here as a potential fund, but there was no goal in here specifically to create the CPA. But I envision that will probably be a discussion coming up in the future. So, yeah. Anyway, sad.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the open space group didn't have a firm position on the CPA that needed to be driven.
Well, they initially did. The only issue was, so I will tell you that there was a public hearing related to the survey that went out. And that was just a public input on first discussing the survey results and also getting public input from residents who had questions, comments, concerns related to this plan. And at that hearing, there was a substantial amount of discussion related to CPA. And the issue was, the open space committee, they're not there to promote CPA. They're there to get this plan drafted and approved. CPA will come at another time from, really, it's the select board that would have to initiate it. So there is definitely some driving force behind the CPA within this committee, but they're not the ones that are going to be up there at town meetings promoting it, because there's a lot of technical backing that you need for that. Because I don't know if everyone's familiar with CPA, but essentially it's a portion of taxes that go towards recreation, open space, affordable housing, and I think historic preservation. So, you tax residents, and that surcharge goes towards this fund, and the fund can only be used for specific items that the CPA allows, and you need a committee.
There's a match too, right?
There is a match, and that's where, it varies every year, and the more communities that get into the CPA funds, the less goes out to each community because there's a pot, and the more hands that are in it, the less goes around. But still, I mean, there is a match from the state. So that's pretty much as I know about CPA. I don't know the definitive details about it.
Okay. All right, so are there any other questions from the board? No? Okay. So you're looking for a recommendation to support? What's the wording we want to?
Yeah, I guess it would just be a motion to recommend the open space what is it? The open space and recreation plan. Motion to recommend to select board the 2025 open space and recreation plan.
So move what Rob said.
I'll second that, what Rob said.
So we got motion made by Steve, seconded by Bill. We'll take the vote. Steve.
Steve,
Bill, I.
Bill, aye.
Liz, I.
Marty, I.
And that motion passes. Let's see, I think we've got an annual report next.
Yeah, the annual report, so we have to, as a community, we have to draft an annual report every year. And gave it a copy. It's very straightforward because it basically just goes over the members, a little bit about what we do, but most importantly, what actions were taken. So it listed, the development plan and stormwater management permits, special permit applications, Form A, which are ANRs, preliminary subdivisions, definitive subdivisions, minor modifications, scenic road permit, bond reductions, and the housing production plan, which was approved in January of this year. And then the warrant articles. I don't think all of these were necessarily included in previous years, but I thought Amy was actually the one that drafted this, and I thought she did a fantastic job, just really trying to get everything incorporated because, I mean, let's be honest, this was a busy year for the planning board. The last few years have been very busy. This one was extremely busy, and the annual report should show all of these things that you've acted on.
Was MBTA this year or last year? Here?
MBTA was last year. Why is it listed in here?
No, I was thinking it was this year.
Yeah, it was last fall.
Yeah.
Cause this spring was
So many
ADU.
memories about that. I've
Yeah.
Yeah, so
bled into this year.
nice report. One comment was that, the positions here, I do believe we did vote Liz clerk
Secretary?
slash secretary at our organization. And
Okay.
I do think we ought to take that to the official.
Unnecessary,
A
but
position I held many times.
I do have one question. You guys all have formal names and my name was not this Marty Roach on the ballot. Could it read
Yeah,
my official
Martin.
name? I don't, I'm asking.
Which way would you like it shown?
I don't care. I just don't, because it's an official document, I don't, that's why I asked, because everybody else's is their full name.
So it's
And then
already-
it's like Marty, I'm
I'll
like,
change it to Martin.
okay,
Were you Marty on the ballot?
no,
You're
I went
Martin.
under Martin D. Roach Jr.
What do you prefer?
It doesn't matter. I
Whatever you'd like to be, the office will change it going forward.
put it down as
Sir
Martin.
Martin,
Martin?
Yeah, I'll put it. I
Put
think
it as
it
Martin,
makes
if you
Yeah.
could let Amy know.
We had. I think
No,
Liz
and it was
put
Amy
under
that
Mark
put me down as Martin D. Roach Jr. That's why when he said it.
yeah, I
That-
just use my full name for government documents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Same here.
I keep my
Since I
full
can,
name
I
off
can have one
government
of a
documents.
million
Yeah,
names.
can't be trusted.
All right, so what do we need? A motion to
To accept as
accept
amended.
as amended?
Yep.
So
so
moved.
move.
Second by Marty, motion made by Bill, beat you in that. Thank you, Steve. All right, so we'll take the vote.
Marty, I.
Liz, I.
Bill, aye.
Bill, on.
All right, so that's true.
So Marty, you didn't like Sir Martin?
No.
Steyr.
All right, so we have two sets of meeting minutes.
I think if, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, so I think October 9th is ready to go, October 23rd, I know I had a few comments on, maybe I can redraft and we can get that figured
Yeah.
out for the next meeting.
Oh, on the 23rd?
Yeah,
Okay, so the 9th, there was a comment about the recusal vote passing 401 recusal. You look at updated
no, that,
on the 9th.
yeah, so I think you mentioned,
Yeah, I just,
yes,
so on the 9th, when we talked, it's the paragraph that towards the very end that starts with, actually not towards the end, right about in the middle where it says, Mr. Goyette made a motion to open the public hearing, 0 Mechanic Street. The end of that, or the midsection there talks about the vote passing 4-1 and recusal. And I just thought it should be 4-0-1 recusal. Just
yeah,
so it's more clear about the
yeah,
fact that you recused yourself, which is the right thing to do on that situation.
yeah, that's the correct way to
Yeah, so,
create that.
is there, any other board members have any questions on those, the meeting minutes on the 9th? All right, so I'll take a motion to approve the October 9th as amended. Motion made by
Second.
Steve, seconded by Liz, and the vote starting with Marty.
Marty, I.
Liz, I.
Phil, I.
Go on.
Steve, I.
And that's accepted, with Phil, I, 5-0. And you're gonna hold the 23rd until later?
Yeah, my notes are in my office, so I forget what needed to be
Do
changed.
you want a coffee?
Yeah,
No?
yeah,
Okay.
I have it written down in my office. So if
All right,
anybody has
we'll
any
hold the
other
23rd for
thing to
next
add
time
to this,
around.
just let me know, all right?
Okay, is there any other meeting business?
No, the only other items, we got a meeting next Thursday,
Is the 20th, and
correct?
there's also a town meeting, what date?
I think the night before.
The night before, so can we?
Yeah.
Talk about a procedural item of something that should be brought up that has been brought to my attention by several citizens about our next meeting.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I just, I know it was an error on our part that we didn't bring up the lawyer letter received by the applicant of NECC, and people were concerned, why didn't we open the meeting back up and bring that to light?
Oh, it's because it was already continued.
Yeah.
I understand, it just, I think we should, maybe the chair should address that right out of the gate. Because we had closed it, we didn't bring it up, because a lot of people, now that it's a public document and it's on the website, people, I'm not kidding you, I had 6 people ask me about it, why didn't you guys talk about it? And I said, it was overlooked, we closed it, and as soon as we close it, we can't continue to discuss anything.
Yeah.
And just bring it up that procedurally, and we also didn't have much time
Well,
to review it.
all I will note is, and I understand the residents' concerns with, especially like tonight, for example, where, we open and continued, and I think it's everyone's initiative and everybody's desire on the board and myself as the staff to keep public hearings as open as possible, as loose as possible, to try and get as much input both from applicants, residents, and staff as possible, because that's the only way that you're going to have productive and good outcomes for applications. But I just want to reiterate to, the public, just in a public forum, that when situations like tonight occur, or situations like last meeting occur where there is a continuance, we're not opening for discussion, the intent there is not specifically to hinder anyone's ability to speak. It's just, there's open meeting laws, and we don't want to push the envelope, because it can really cause more harm than good for the town, especially with, high profile projects, where there's a lot of input, and I'll just leave it at that.
So I'll say procedurally, if anybody wants to address that topic next time around. But any board member can address any topic they want. We just got caught up in a procedural thing that we were past the point.
I think we did procedurally.
Procedurally, I think we had to do that the way we did it at the very end, and probably at the end before that fire wasn't handled right.
Well, let me just say that now that letter is public,
Yeah.
it's probably not a bad idea because I'll want to address it. But at least people have gotten to see it now. So
Yeah.
when I do address it, at least from my perspective, I won't speak on behalf of the board, people will know what I'm talking about.
Okay, and procedurally, it was posted on our website at the time, but agreed. If anybody wants to address it next time around? Procedurally,
I think
it'll be a no.
an item on the agenda.
All right, anything else other for tonight, or I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting? Anybody else need?
Motion to close the meeting.
All right,
Second.
made by Marty, second by Liz, and Steve.
Steve, I.
No lie.
Bill, aye.
Was I?
Marty, I.
And we are accepting that vote 5-0 to close starting now.